Principal Deputy Speaker, and I rise, of course, to support my colleagues in this very worthy motion at this time. And I suppose it is reprehensible that our public servants and their families are not given the protection within law that they and their jobs merit. For police service or soldiers and our prison officers, their job is not a 9-to-5 job. And even if it is, it doesn't end at 9 and 5. Their whole lives are wrapped around protection, around worry, around sincere measures that they have to put in place, even children, to protect them and their families from a terrorist threat, and has always been the case here in Northern Ireland. And I suppose if there's one thing I could appeal to the party opposite, the party opposite has a horrendous past in this regard, like no other party in this House. And I would say that whilst we can't change the past, you can't change your past, you can make a difference in the future by protecting these people going forward, them and their families. And to do the right thing by those people would be enormous and would be a recognition of the sacrifice of the past. But, Mr. Principal Deputy Speaker, if I could speak on the other aspect that is bound to be neglected here. We're going to focus on the murders. There's no doubt about that, because obviously those are the most horrific of crimes, and the loss of family and the sacrifices made. But there is also an issue around assaults and the damaging of people. And that goes right across the spectrum of people who serve. That affects nurses and ambulance workers, and we have made a difference. We have made differentials between different people and their jobs, and has always been the case. So our job is to try and find that differential and try to be fair around that differential. And we have made exceptions for police officers, for firefighters. And lately, a number of years ago in the Justice No. 2 bill, when my amendment for assaults on ambulance workers was successfully passed in this House. And that made a difference to those people and those workers who serve the community, who help vulnerable people, and who at times during their service fall under circumstances where they are assaulted, some of them very grievously, and damaged in the course of their actions. And Mr. Blair, I think, alluded to the fact that I had a private member's bill in the front of this House, this Assembly, around the same protections around assaults for emergency workers. And I must say that private member's bill was proving to be a challenge for a number of reasons, one of them being, where do you extend this protection to? Because social workers are going into people's homes where they could be vulnerable and could be attacked also. And there's a wide range of healthcare workers, even people who work in mental health hospitals, who on a daily basis find very challenging scenarios to deal with. So that all had to play in the mix, and I believe should play in the mix. But one thing that is important when looking at all of this is the impact of a crime on an individual, how they suffer pain, how that affects them, how that affects their role that they play, how it affects their job, their sickness, when they can return to their jobs. But not only that, the impact on other people. If you take somebody out of service, so if you assault an ambulance worker or an accident emergency nurse or doctor or worker, and they have to take time off work, even at that time, even at that night when they're assaulted, that could have ramifications which could mean the death of someone else, indirectly. And that is something that we should be mindful of when we look at these sentencing laws and when we look at assaults. So even if a nurse or a doctor is assaulted and have to leave their place of work for an hour, that could have massive ramifications for someone's life, because that nurse and that doctor, that healthcare professional, is not there to administer first aid to somebody. And that could have massive ramifications right through the line and deprive people of their family members and their loved ones. And that is something that we should be mindful of when we pass these motions and this legislation. Thank you very much.